Hey, stunning people. My name is Bean, and welcome to the Salt Lick Sessions. I am genuinely fascinated by this next artist. He is intelligent, he's kind, and he did each of his songs in one take because he's just that good. This is Dom Flemons.
Tell me where you come from now. Tell me where you come from now. I'm from far out in the country. I'm from far out in the country. How you get your living done on my racket pony? What your horse is living on, I give them corn and water. Down the road I got arrested. Police took me to the jailhouse. What'd they do? Brought me for a cruel old judge. The judge gave me a heavy sentence. What'd I say to him? Judge, you know I ain't never been here before. What'd he say to me? Give you 6 months, you ain't coming back no more. Now the judge was so cruel to me, and he would not let me go. So I'm just sitting here in the jail, thinking back on the country. They pick it like that. Train go by. Another one go by just like this. Sometime, you know, them trains go off the track, though. Tell me where you come from now. Tell me where you come from now.
Dom Flemons. How you doing?
Doing all right, Bean. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you had time to come in here today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be with you all today.
It's our pleasure to hear you one take wonder. Yeah, I always find that so impressive.
Oh, thank you so much.
You call yourself the American songster. Can you tell me what that means?
Sure thing. Well, the songster back in the late 19th century and early 20th century. It was based on the idea there were books that were books of lyrics, and they were called songsters. And by the early 20th century, there were musicians who called themselves songsters because they played a variety of music. And as I went along, I found that I was interested in a lot of different types of music, blues and country, early jazz, folk music, even rock and roll, and all these different things. And so I wanted to try to find a way to have a catch-all term that would explain all these things in one word. And so I found songster was the way to go about it. And of course, with me performing a lot of songs from the United States, I wanted to call myself the American songster.
I love it. I think it's very fitting, and it has a ring to it.
Thank you so much.
It's kind of cute. Songster, it's very wholesome. It's a very wholesome name. You do a catalog of music that spans 100 years. Where did that start? What was the beginning?
Well, I guess when I was about 16 or 17 years old, I found that I just got interested in vinyl records, and it was before everybody started really collecting them. And so I got into a lot of music of the 60s and 70s at first, and the 50s, and then from there I found that there was music that came before all that type of music. And of course that music was already old at that point, but when I started to find the music of the 1920s and 30s, I started to find the music of people like Charlie Patton and Henry Thomas and Papa Charlie Jackson. I found that I was on a trajectory of wanting to learn as much as I could about the music. And so as I went, I started to learn the songs. At times I found that there were unique instruments along the way, so I started to learn those instruments as I went.
What kind of unique instruments are you talking about?
Well, at first there was the guitar. That's kind of standard, but I started out playing the drums. So, I started out playing drums, the marching bass drum and snare drum.
Were you in the marching band?
Yes, I was.
Love it. I was a marching band person myself.
Nice. I played in a 4 bass drum line. So
amazing.
I learned polyrhythms that way. And when I started to hear a lot of this old-time folk music, I found that I was drawn to the different polyrhythmic sounds. So it started with guitar, but then later on I found a 4-string banjo, and that was where I started to get into New Orleans jazz. And then as I went, I got into jug band music, which is a special type of old-time music, and I'd seen jug on cartoons and in different shows like the Beverly Hillbillies. But when I started to hear some of the early jug bands, like the Memphis Jug Band and the Louisville Jug Band, I heard that they were really playing some amazing music on the jug. And so I just decided to start learning to play the jug myself. So I taught myself how to play the jug.
How does one do that?
Well, you hold the jug up to your mouth, and you it's almost like a bad embouchure on a tuba.
Right.
And then you can create tones with the jug. If just with my hand... You can do that with a big jug and make a really nice sound with it. So I started going to the local folk festivals that were around in my hometown of Phoenix, Arizona, and I started to play bass with people. I started to sit in on different sessions and learned how to play jug along with different bands, bluegrass bands and country bands and whatnot. And that was how I started on that. Played the harmonica, and... Then around 2005, I made my way out to North Carolina, and when I went out there, that was when I picked up an instrument called the rhythm bones, which are kind of short rib bones cut to length. They kind of look like castanets in a sort of way.
Okay.
And so I started to learn to play the bones, and so that was a unique instrument.
Wow.
I got to know a wonderful musician by the name of Mike Seeger, who was a wonderful old-time musician, and he taught me how to play an instrument called the quills, which are like a panpipe. And so I learned interesting different musical traditions and styles that led me down the road,
Would you say that you are ambitious, or you're somebody who gets bored easily?
Ooh. I'd say in many ways ambitious. I mean, I wouldn't say I get bored, because I find myself... not so much stuck, but I find myself revisiting a lot of the music again and again. And that's one of the things with a lot of the old-time music, is it's not really a music that's built on instant gratification. It's a sort of music that you have to revisit again and again, and it gets into your mind and your blood and into your thought process, and then you've revisited again, and sometimes you can find deeper stories and deeper meanings into the lyrics, or sometimes the melodies, the chords, the musical traditions that can take you on a whole other trajectory. And so that's something that's kept me going, is that first I fell in love with the music, and then as I keep revisiting it, I find that it's just gets more deeper and broader and more expansive as I listen to it.
Oh, wow. I'm kind of fascinated by you. I'm not going to lie. You strike me as an academic man as well. You're also, I think it should be noted, you were early for the session today, which in Los Angeles is unheard of. Unheard of. We factor in 30 minutes for people to be late.
Well, I factored in about an hour and a half to get from where I'm staying to get here, but the traffic gods were shining upon me today, and it just gave me a straightforward path where there was nothing that stopped me from getting here. So
there you go.
That was wonderful. I always try to get on time places, and in terms of the academic part, when I studied in college, I studied English, and I studied Latin and Shakespeare and Chaucer and all these early forms of written words, and I found a joy and love of the etymology of storytelling. And folk music in its own way, even though it's with music, it also has very deep and very intensive storytelling at times. And so I was drawn to it in that way as well. So that drew me to a lot of the old ballads and a lot of the literature around music. And so I was always drawn to that aspect of it. So when I'm performing my songs, I always think about the literature of the music and how it's being presented out to the public when I'm presenting it, or whenever I'm doing a presentation or whatever.
So would you say that your songwriting is informed by the literature? Are you writing in a way that you're trying to tell like an old story?
Always, I always try to take myself out of it and try to give something that can be universally understood by the audience. And also I try to give the audience something to think about, so that when they're listening to my songs, it's not just one layer. There's multiple layers that you can find within the way that the song goes, or how the words are being put together, that can give you something to come back to. A lot of my favorite music is multi-layered as well, where it's not something that you can just listen to one time and take away every detail. It's something that you can come back to multiple times. Or some of my favorite songwriters are like that as well. When I think back on, everybody from people like Bob Dylan or Paul Simon or Sam Cooke or even Leonard Cohen or Jim Croce, those people that, you hear their songs, you can listen to it once, but to listen to it multiple times is to have an enriched experience.
I got you. Wow, I just feel like I could talk to you all day. I really do. If you had to share a bill right now with two artists, alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, well, being out here in L.A. with the Grammy nomination for Best Folk Album, I'm sharing the bill with Joni Mitchell, Paul Simon, Milk Carton Kids, Old Crow Medicine Show, Nickel Creek.
It's a wild group to be a part of.
Yeah,
really.
So it's quite a bill to be sharing. So I'm thinking about them, and Rufus Wainwright. That's the other one as well. But that's quite a bill. So
right. Out of respect for them, we'll say all of them. Say nobody's ranking them.
Absolutely, I'm a fan of all of those musicians in one form or another already. So it's quite a bill to be a part of.
And I'm sure that fandom is reciprocated across the board.
Well, I hope so.
Oh, for sure. You really seem like somebody who's a natural educator. I'm sure every time that I talk to you, I learn something new. No. But in a way that's so not forced, like it's so organic. I just love it. I really do.
Oh, well, thank you so much. A lot of my teachers when I was coming up, I had some really great teachers that taught in a very colloquial manner, which just in conversational style, teaching big concepts and big stories and very intense academic research in a way that was very easy to understand. And I always took that into account when I wanted to start presenting history out, because a lot of times people I'd love to think people were going to read all the books or all the literature, but I can't guarantee that.
Right.
And so trying to find a way to allow people to be enriched by the scholarship in a way where they don't have to be as intensively involved like I am. That's something that I always try to do whenever I'm putting information out there.
Absolutely. It seems like a formula and an approach that's good for the ADD generation that's coming up on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because it's sometimes it only takes just a little seed of information to really sprout into a whole trajectory of study and a whole trajectory of a rabbit hole that'll lead you to something that I think is personally fulfilling to people.
I gotcha. Like I said, I think I already said it again, but I really am fascinated. I feel like I'm better for meeting you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bean.
So thank you for coming in, Dom. It really, really means the world. I'm grateful that you're here.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be on the Salt Lake Sessions with you.
Oh, yeah, and best of luck this weekend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like to end everyone with a squeeze. Thank you for being here, Dom.
I wanna pull you close and slow dance with you. Darling, I ain't the perfect man, but I see the sun's coming up and you're lovely wrapped in dawn. Darling, take my hand. Take your time, no rush. We've got the band all night. Forget the world, it's just you and I. Ain't got no expectations, got no questions to ask. Darling, take that fear from your eyes, 'cause I wanna pull you close and slow dance with you. Darling, I ain't the perfect man, 'cause I see the sun's coming up and you're lovely wrapped in dawn. Darling, take my hand. I know you miss someone, I'm missing someone too, but it ain't about them tonight. It's about two lost hearts and a bucket full of tears that are being left outside tonight. 'Cause I wanna pull you close and slow dance with you. Darling, I ain't the perfect man, but I see the sun's coming up and you're lovely wrapped in dawn. Darling, take my hand. Darling, take my hand.
Hey, stunning people. If you're loving our music, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe. And comment below who you want to see next.